G'day guys, welcome to the Unofficial Scorecard Podcast, a podcast where we talk all things boxing and occasionally the wider world of combat sports. This is episode 81, and on today's episode, guys, we're in for a treat. We are joined by one of the original boxing podcasters, a man that paved the way for the blokes like me these days, returning mate of the show, Eric Raskin. Guys, I always have an absolute ton of fun talking to Eric. He's a total gentleman. He's so easy and considerate to deal with. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure having him on. It's a pleasure being able to pick his brain. It's a pleasure being able to spend a little bit of time with him virtually over the internet. That's all I can say. I had so much fun. It was the best. Now, guys, what did we talk about on today's pod? Well, of course, we had to jump back to the Ryan Garcia crowning moment, his world title victory over Mario Barrios. It also featured some pretty good fights on the undercard, so we jumped into all that. I also picked Eric's brain on his thoughts on the initial stages of the Zuffa boxing rollout this year. We also quickly touch on Emmanuel Navarette and Eduardo Nunez in their 130-pound unification, which happens tomorrow. So it's a pretty short shelf life on this pod, guys. So we didn't really get to speak too much about the fights tomorrow, but that was for a specific reason. And as I hinted on the last episode, if anyone was able to guess it, which no one really was, but it's pretty obscure. But Eric is a massive Survivor fan. I'm a huge Survivor fan. We always talk Survivor when he's on this show. We specifically waited a little longer in the week to record this episode so that it would be after the debut episode of the historic season 50 of Survivor. 25 years. Hell yeah. So we got all into that. And also, as we have every other time Eric's been on the show, I steal the game that he invented with his mate Kieran Mulvaney, the boxing-based trivia game, the Fight Game, and I give him another round of the Fight Game. And that was a ton of fun as well. So guys, this is probably actually the least current boxing I've ever spoken on the pod, but there was so much other stuff to talk about and it was a ton of fun. So let's keep this short and get to the episode with Eric Raskin now. All right, well, here I am joined once again by one of the very first boxing podcasters. You know him from Ring Theory with Bill Detloff, the HBO Boxing Podcast, the Showtime Boxing Podcast, and the Interim Champion Boxing Podcast with his mate Kieran Mulvaney. He's also a long-time boxing writer for many prestigious outlets, currently writing for Boxing Scene, and his self-titled yearly awards columns featuring obscure references to even more niche 80s breakdancing films are your thing, he's got you covered. Back for the third time, it's Eric Raskin. Eric, thanks for coming on, mate.
Oh, my pleasure, Zach. And you're making me realize I was podcasting back before it was cool. Although I'm not sure it ever became cool. But it definitely wasn't cool back in 2009 when I started my first podcast.
Well, I thought it was very cool anyway, so forget what the masses say. I thought it was cool as, and an inspiration for me years later to jump on board. So still not a cool thing to do, but we think it's cool and we enjoy it. So that's the main thing. But Eric, straight off the bat, I referenced it there, the Raskies. So good. I have to commend you. That title, I won't steal it off you. You can tell the people if they haven't heard it. Unbelievably great comedy.
Oh, thank you. I guess you're referring to the second edition that came out at the end of 2025, which I titled, Raskies 2 Electric Rascaloo, which is if you were either alive in the 80s or the nostalgia made its way to you. I guess Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo stayed in the sort of general atmosphere long enough that even if you weren't conscious in probably 1985, I would guess that movie came out, something like that. I feel like I was in 5th grade when Breakin' 2 was a thing, and we were all had a lot of fun with the ridiculous title Electric Boogaloo, and obviously it stuck with me, and so I stole it as the subtitle for this year's Raskies.
Oh, it was so good. Genuinely made me laugh out loud when I read it. Absolutely fantastic. And it puts a bit of pressure on for the Raskies 3. Or what, we got a bit of a way to go, a bit of brainstorming time, but it does put the pressure on, but not to ramp it up too much. But I am eagerly anticipating what the title will be for the third edition.
I feel like right after the second one came out, there was like a moment of some people suggesting some ideas and me starting to think about it. But one of the things that comes with being my age is that I can't remember anything from that I was thinking. So at this point, I'm a clean slate. We'll see what ideas I come up with in December when the time comes. But yeah, there are definitely some good part threes of movies that I can play off of, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Well, I'm sure I'm not the only one eagerly anticipating, and we wait for the date drops on the Boxing Scene website. It'll be super exciting. But let's get into it, Eric. We've got tons to get to. Maybe not the most packed boxing schedule for this edition of the show we've ever had, but more on that later. But first, we'll start with the most recent fights from about a week ago. Ryan Garcia, our king, our overlord, he has finally been anointed. The king of boxing has claimed a world title, taking Mario Barrios' WBC welterweight title in a pretty excellent performance. We'll get into the card as a whole afterwards, but we have to start straight at the top with the main event. Eric, what did you make of King Rye's performance?
I mean, there's almost nothing to criticize. That was by far the best we've ever seen him. I've often mentioned how when someone loses, they are automatically diminished by having lost, and thus there's a tendency to put at least some degree of asterisk on the win and to not view it as quite as impressive as we might have going in. If you hear going in, Ryan Garcia is going to basically shut out Mario Barrios, you're going to be totally blown away by that. It wasn't what anyone was expecting. I think most of us expected a competitive fight. Now that it's over, it's easy to look back and say, you know what? Mario Barrios is incredibly mediocre. And he kind of is, right? He's, as world title holders go, he is, right on that line of where he's world class, but is he really championship level? He kind of was right place, right time, managed to keep his title via a few draws. So again, not to diminish what Garcia did, but keep it in some perspective that Barrios was a good fighter and really not much more than that, I suppose. But for Garcia to really win every single round, the normally infallible Steve Weisfeld somehow found 2 rounds to give Barrios. I think that's kind of a reach. I'm not sure how. I didn't give him any. Certainly not 2. I think it was the last 2, actually, that Weisfeld gave him. So maybe he was coming on late when I'd kind of written him off and stopped paying attention. I don't know. But basically, knock him down, 30 seconds into the fight with a right hand that he really wasn't prepared for. Garcia impressively didn't rely overly on the left hook. He mixed it up and used both hands, but the right hand even more so than the left. This is the Garcia that I guess we were promised, right? That I never even believed he was quite this good. I always sort of thought, he's a little bit of hype. Good-looking kid, athletic, talented, but I don't see a pound-for-pounder kind of guy at any point. He looked like a possible pound-for-pounder against Barrios. Again, it's Barrios, but that's how good he looked. I was just dazzled by how completely dominant he was, how disciplined he was, how locked in he was. This was a version of Ryan Garcia we've never seen for 12 whole rounds before. And so it does open up the door to, can this guy reach higher heights than I really thought were possible? I thought, if anything, he might already have peaked based on how bad he looked against Raleigh Romero and the fact that he was on PEDs against Devin Haney. I wouldn't have been surprised if the best of Ryan Garcia had already happened. Now I have to reassess that.
Yeah, and you mentioned the failed drugs test against Devin Haney, and I don't know how long they normally take. We're a week out from the fight. I don't think we're still quite out of the clear yet, but fingers crossed.
You're right.
We'll take him for his word that he looked in fantastic condition and everything. But also what you pointed on there too, Eric, the thing that impressed me most, and you said it was the discipline and the ability that Ryan showed to stay disciplined for 12 rounds. They were really my big question marks there. And it seemed like a really, finally a really mature performance from Ryan. He really came into his own in that fight, stuck to the game plan, didn't get wild. He sort of throughout his career has a habit of fighting in spurts almost. He likes to take little, not physical breaks, but mental breaks. He'll sort of, if he doesn't sort of like the look of something, he'll take a step back, shuffle around, change the angle, likes to reset a couple of times around. He still did that in most rounds this fight, but he did it far less. I thought his preparation just seemed to be so much more spot on, which sort of begs the next question. He trained with his father this time, Henry Garcia, before he'd gone through a multitude of trainers. Joe Goosen, we know about. You spoke to Joe during fight week, which I'd love to get your thoughts on too. That great article that you put on Boxing Scene. Also Derek James. But maybe, do you think there is a possibility that the unlikely thought, at least from me and most boxing fans, I'm assuming, was that he would have the most success with Henry Garcia? He probably needed to get away from his father. Maybe that was the best spot for him after all. What do you sort of make of the last couple of trainers that Ryan's had?
Yeah, you don't want to, I guess, jump to conclusions off one fight necessarily, but again, this was the best he's ever looked. His dad has to get some credit for that. I don't know if it's just like a comfort sort of thing, that he's so trusting in his dad in maybe a way that he wasn't with anyone else, that he was able to prepare better because of that for some reason. I don't know if it took some degree of pressure off of him or added some sort of additional layer of pressure that he responded well to. I don't know. Ryan Garcia is a guy I'm very hesitant to psychoanalyze for a variety of reasons, but whatever the combination with his dad, at least for this one fight, it really worked. We've seen generally throughout boxing history, it goes the other way. A guy starts out with their dad, has success, rises the ranks, then kind of plateaus because the dad is usually not like an experienced boxing trainer. And so, at a certain point, Shane Mosley, why can't I think of anyone else at the moment who was trained by their dad? Again, that's 50-year-old brain kicking in. But there are a lot. Mosley's like sort of the one that really comes to mind. Even like Brian Norman, who we just saw recently against, or Devin Haney is another one, although he is still with his dad. But Teofimo. Oh, wow, that's a perfect example of But like if we focus on Shane Mosley, he was a guy who had all this talent. His dad was his trainer, got him to a certain point, and then he started losing, started slipping a little bit, and that was clearly the wrong guy to have in his corner, and it was time to expand and get some new voices or whatever. Usually that's the progression, is you start out with your dad, they take you as far as you can go, and then you call in the Emmanuel Stewart type of hired gun who's going to really teach you how to maximize everything you've got. And so with Garcia, it is interesting that he's sort of gone this opposite direction. He's gone through all these other trainers, and now it's Henry Garcia as the lead voice in the corner. I couldn't tell you why, but it absolutely worked for him. He had the right game plan. He was fully prepared for anything Barrios was going to bring, and the reverse wasn't true. So, not to rip on my guy Joe Goosen, who really is one of my favorite people in this sport. Absolutely, I don't know if you've ever spoken to him, but he is just someone that, like, the second he picks up the phone, he makes you feel like he's as excited to talk to you as you are to talk to him. He's got that kind of personality, and just a great guy. Didn't seem to have Barrios ready for what Garcia was going to bring. I don't know if it's because he wasn't expecting this version of Garcia we've never seen before, who was able to put it all together like this, or if it was just the limitations of Barrios, that athletically, speed-wise, he was kind of overmatched as it turned out. And there was maybe no trainer in the world who could have gotten him over the hump in that fight. I'm not sure, but whatever Joe Goosen told him, nothing was working at all. And on the other side, you got to give some credit to Henry Garcia. How much, I think maybe you wait for another fight or two of them together to assess whether this was a fluke, a one-time thing, or something that's a real trend, and that his dad's the perfect trainer for him.
Yeah, certainly time will tell. But you mentioned there, Eric, that you were able to speak to Joe Goosen during fight week, and you did write that excellent article on Boxing Scene, which I'm sure tons of people read. Was there anything after speaking to Joe that sort of changed your mind about what you're expecting to see on fight night? Like, did it bolster Mario's your confidence in Mario a little bit, or how did that sort of affect your prediction sort of in the days leading up?
Yeah, it did. Usually a good trainer who's a good talker will get you believing in their fighter more. I think the classic example of this is how during Canelo Cotto fight week, Freddie Roach was so convincing in promising that Cotto was going to beat Canelo that I think he kind of swayed Kieran to a degree.
He wouldn't have to try hard to sway Kieran.
As much as Kieran loves Cotto, I think he's usually pretty realistic about certain matchups, but that might have been one where he was like kind of leaning toward picking Canelo and then flipped. And I think I remember Max Kellerman even sort of saying the same thing, that Freddie kind of convinced him during fight week that Cotto had. I don't remember if Max was picking Cotto, but at least getting him to believe. So yeah, there was some of that with Goose and with Barrios that what he really sold me on was a couple of things he singled out. Now, I think size is so overrated. It's not the most important thing in the ring, but it can be a small factor. And Goosen was talking some about how huge Barrios is for a welterweight, how Michael Nunn was in the gym and Michael Nunn was a middleweight and a super middleweight, and he was standing next to him and saying, this guy's bigger than I was, or, so, and that did show in the ring that Barrios was the bigger man, a couple inches taller than Garcia. It didn't end up mattering, but Goosen kind of persuaded me on that front, that he's just a really big, strong welterweight. Didn't matter at all. But the other thing was he was talking about how what a pro Barrios is in training, and how he was in fight shape from like midway through the camp on, and his stamina and his wind and all this stuff is incredible. This guy doesn't get tired. I think that swayed me a little bit, that I came around to the idea of, sure, Ryan Garcia is more athletic, more talented, more skilled maybe, but he's so inconsistent. We know Ryan Garcia is always a threat to just kind of mail it in for a round or multiple rounds or not be there mentally. And that Barrios is the opposite of that he's going to be. Goosen convinced me, you're getting this baseline level of Mario Barrios because he's always in shape and he's solid and he's consistent, and he's shown it against a variety of opponents. So I think he swayed me a little on that. I never made a formal prediction for the fight, but I did make a bet, and it was a losing bet. I went ahead and put some money on Barrios just straight up but he was plus 195. So I wasn't really picking him. I wouldn't have bet him at even money necessarily, but at plus 195, I did think he had a better than needed, like a 35% chance to win for that bet to be worth it. And I did think he had that at least.
Yeah. You got to take a risk, and sometimes you end up with a pizza. So you never know.
Yes, the good news is I won't reveal the exact dollar amount, but I lost a bet at plus 195 that would not damage anyone's ability to pay their bills.
Okay, that's good. Well, Eric, now we have to jump onto what's next for Ryan. There seems to be multiple avenues that he can go. What avenue do you think he will take next, and what avenue would you like to see him take next?
So this is a really interesting question, because I think the obvious fight for him that is like sort of the biggest possible fight right now, and let's put aside like sort of weird circusy fights that are not impossible, but like, if you said, hey, Ryan Garcia, sit on the sidelines, don't do anything while Mayweather and Pacquiao fight each other, and you'll get the winner, I think there is a non-zero chance because he has a big name or whatever, but I don't consider that realistic. Sticking with the non-circus, relatively realistic fights, the one that is so logical right at this moment is a rematch with Devin Haney. And it's a fight that I was so vehemently opposed to in the aftermath of their first fight, because Garcia didn't try to make weight, came in with that extra advantage of not having struggled to get down in weight and the size advantage. And then he tests positive for the PEDs, and all of that combined to he did some real physical damage to Devin Haney. Now Haney recovered from it and looked great against Brian Norman. So that's good to see. But in the aftermath of that, my feeling was, I don't want to see a rematch between these two. I don't care if there's bad blood and revenge and unfinished business and yada, yada, because I feel like Devin Haney shouldn't give Garcia the respect to get in the ring with him again after he essentially, to some degree, cheated against him the first time, So I was very opposed to it until now. It's kind of, I have to admit, it's gotten so big with the two of them both coming off truly outstanding wins that if Devin Haney looks at that and says, A, I want my revenge for what this guy did to me the last time, and B, that's the fight that's going to make me the most money, I kind of support it, and I get the appeal, and I now acknowledge that this thing could sell huge, whereas I was kind of not convinced of that prior to them both having outstanding performances recently. And it's, now it's an alphabet unification fight at welterweight. There's a lot of reasons to make it. That's the one that sort of seems the most obvious. I don't know if that's the best fight for Garcia or the most likely fight for him. I know there started to be some talk of if Zuffa Boxing is going to insanely overpay Conor Benn, that maybe they're pointing toward then a Conor Benn Ryan Garcia matchup. Obviously, that's not going to be the first fight because instead it's Regis Prograis, which, don't get me started on how somehow someone wants to pay $15 million to get Conor Benn in that fight. But there are fights like that, I suppose, for Garcia that are a little less attractive to the hardcore fan, but still might be worth a lot of money. So, yeah, those are kind of some of the ones that come right to mind. I'm trying to think who else has other belts at welterweight right now. I mean, there's, he started talking about fighting Shakur Stevenson. It makes sense for Shakur Stevenson because he'd be a solid favorite, and he gets to take on a huge name, make a huge payday, grab a belt at welterweight if he's successful. I'm not sure that that's the fight that makes the most sense for Garcia. I mean, Shakur is just such a tough puzzle to solve. So there's a lot of options out there, though. But I think at this moment, Devin Haney is the one that has the storylines and the money behind it. And it's just kind of a question, would they want to go straight into that? Or would they sort of see it as something, let's build to it a little bit by fighting other guys first?
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I think it's too much of a layup not to take, and with the Ryan Garcia's history, he's white hot at the moment. He might not be next time he fights, so you may as well strike while the iron's hot and really capitalize on this opportunity while both guys are at their peaks, because you just can't trust Ryan historically at least. Anyway, he's so all over the place. But it's going to be
a guy who's shown he's capable of losing to Rolly Romero and not even close, like getting blown out by Rolly Romero. Yeah, maybe it's not a good idea to marinate any fight and assume that he's going to win a tune-up and just go straight into the big fight.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's going to be interesting nonetheless what happens in the next couple of months with Ryan Garcia and that welterweight division in general, in a bit of flux at the moment. But we'll get our answers closer to mid-year, I imagine. But on the undercard, Eric, I just wouldn't mind touching on, there were two excellent fights. The co-feature being on, I know someone you're a fan of and his wider family too. Gary Antuanne Russell defended his WBA super lightweight title in an excellent fight and a really close fight over Andy Hiraoka. Did you enjoy this one?
Yeah, it was solid. The other fight that I know you're going to ask me about next, I thought was certainly the better of the two. But this one was reasonably entertaining, and it was sort of interesting, the sort of ebbs and flows of it, and that it was maybe a little slow the first half of the fight and then sort of picked up as it went along. The scores were fairly ridiculous. I mean, that was a close fight one way or the other. Russell probably deserved to win, but should have been real close, and I can't remember the exact scores, but I know the judges had it pretty lopsided in Russell's favor.
2-8-4s and a 9-3.
Yeah, and it wasn't that kind of fight. To me, it was more in the 7-5 kind of range. And now I'm trying to remember, there was a pointed... Oh, yeah, wait. Was that the fight with the low blow that landed actually below...
Yeah,
it was like a full crotch chop. Yeah, it was. So there was a point deduction there. So yeah, it could have been like a 6-6 1-point win for Russell, thanks to the point deduction, in that kind of range. And I know there were complications from Hiraoka being delayed getting there, and so people weren't sure about that. But no, he fought well. It was a competitive fight. I think, I do love the Russell family. They're all such incredibly nice guys, especially the oldest brother, or at least the oldest of the fighting brothers, Gary Russell Jr. Just one of our favorite guests on the Showtime podcast. But we had Gary Antuanne on once as well, and he was great and really likable. And so I'm rooting for him. He has the one loss already. He has this one that was close. You sort of get the feeling maybe we're seeing his ceiling at this point.
Yeah, well, let's get into the fight of the card, really, the one that I think you thought I was going to say first, but Frank Martin over here, Albright. What a banger. Were you expecting this to be as competitive as it ended up being?
I mean, I favored Martin, as I think the odds certainly did, and everybody else would have picked him, but I figured it would be competitive. We've seen Albright give, all sorts of world-class level fighters at least tough fights and sometimes upset them. So this was one where I prior to losing my Mario Barrios bet, I made up for it with this one here. And I don't think I've spoken or written anywhere publicly about this. So you're getting the exclusive on my betting on this fight.
Okay.
I was watching. I got together with my pay-per-view friend David Cushion. We get together and watch a lot of fights together. We were watching, and around the middle of the second round, I was thinking, this is pretty competitive. I think Albright had won the first round in my view, or at least it was clear this was going to be a close-ish kind of fight. And I'm like looking at the live odds, and they had a draw at 14-1.
Ooh.
So I'm just thinking, it's only a 10-round fight, a little easier to get a draw in a 10-rounder than a 12-rounder, And so I put a little bet down middle of the second round on a draw at 14-1, and it made the experience of watching the fight kind of interesting, because throughout we're sort of discussing, I'm rooting for it to stay close, and I think it started to look maybe after 8 rounds. As though Martin was maybe up like 5-3. It kind of had that feel. So now I'm rooting for Albright to rally a bit. But I think if I'm remembering right, he hurt Martin at one point in the last round. I'm thinking, don't knock him down. If you get a knockdown, there's no chance of a draw. So it's this weird rooting. And then so it gets to the end of the 10th round, and I'm like, this really could be a draw. So we're waiting for the scores. And just the ring announcer, all 3 judges see the fight, and 95, and that was all I needed to hear. I heard that 95, and I'm up dancing around the room. So, but it was, yes, exactly. A few slices at least. But it was also my bet aside. It was a really good action fight. It absolutely made up for the fact that the main event was somewhat one-sided. This was just a back and forth, really good action fight, close all the way, really entertaining. I'd love to see them run it back. I know they talked about that afterwards. This is a perfect case of why not do an immediate rematch.
Yeah, 100%. And just for the record, after the second round, I scored the remaining 8 rounds, all 10-10. So the draw was never in doubt.
That's one way to do it. Yeah, if you're on the take, if I paid you off to score at a draw, that's one way to do it. Just make every round 10-10.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was at my old man's house watching that fight, that card. Excuse me. And I was talking to him because I was all pumped up about the fight, and they started interviewing the fighters afterwards. And my old man just goes, "Mate, shut up. I want to hear what these guys have to say." And I'm glad he did, because both guys were classy as hell in defeat. They both gave each other credit. With great sportsmanship. It doesn't happen often enough. I thought it was excellent. So.
And some quality singing from Nahir Albright afterwards with he's a Philly guy, I'm a Philly guy, was singing although I guess he's technically from New Jersey, but it's basically right outside Philly. He was singing Boys to Men, which is the Philly R&B group of of my youth. So that was a nice touch as well. But they both very classy after the fight.
Yeah, I didn't know what the song was, so thanks for filling us in on that one, Eric. But I thought when it first started, it's always jarring when someone just, because he literally goes, "Oh, hang on, I just want to sing a song."
Mm-hmm.
What the hell? And
Right.
expecting some sort of Tyson Fury, like classic, a bit upbeat, but he went the slow jam. I was like, I don't know how this is going to go, but mate, all credit to him. Pulled it off. It was excellent.
Right. Yeah, you know what? This just reminded me, not boxing related at all once, but I was on a cruise ship and with my family, and they had a karaoke night on the cruise. So big crowd of people who don't know each other. And a white woman goes up there and decides to do Whitney Houston, I Will Always Love You. And there were two black women seated in the crowd who were like, oh no, oh, you don't mess with this. Oh no. And then this woman killed it. She was a great singer. And by the end, the people were like, all right, you did it. You did Whitney proud. We're okay with it. So Nahir Albright, maybe he's not a professional singer, but solid, way better than Tyson Fury, certainly.
Yes. The best singer in post-fight in recent years, that's for sure. But I thought it was a pretty excellent card, all in all, entertaining in different ways. But just one thing, question without notice. I apologise, Eric, but you did mention, just jogged my memory about Zuffa boxing, and obviously they're been in the news basically all year. They've done a couple of events now. They've seemingly, from if what we read is to be believed, gigantically overpaid Conor Benn. Is it Turkey just sort of pulling the strings just for the hell of it? Kind of seems like it is. Who knows? But Zuffa has been a big topic in Australia, obviously, with the signing of Jai Opetaia. So we've been talking about it a fair bit here. How have you seen the first initial... I guess this is the first year they've actually fully been in business. They've had a couple of events now. How have you seen their entry into boxing, and how do you think it's going to impact the rest of the landscape for the coming year, if at all?
As long as they have that Saudi money flowing in that they at their disposal to use, they're going to really shake up the sport in the U.S. That's pretty clear. They're already starting to. I think, with the sort of the proven track record as a promoter, not in boxing, but in UFC at least, of Dana White, with his name, with his reach, ability to make deals, you knew they were going to come in and make a splash, but they also were coming in with no stable of fighters to speak of, really. A lot of sort of B and C level guys that they were going to put on these initial Paramount Plus shows. And so there was a certain skepticism of, okay, you can talk a big game, you can throw money around, but if you don't have any fighters that matter, you're not really gonna shake up the American boxing landscape. Then they got Jai Opetaia, which huge where you are, and significant here too, as well as the lineal cruiserweight champ.
Unfortunately, sorry, Eric, basically unknown in Australia.
Oh, okay, all right. So
not, it breaks my heart.
He doesn't have a following at home. Okay.
Nothing. Not at all.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
Well, I guess I should say on the global boxing stage, at least, then he's significant because he is the cruiserweight champ. And so that was at least a sign that, okay, they're starting to build out a stable. And then you start hearing the rumors that, they're going to sign Usyk, and they're going to sign Fury, and some of these guys, as they start throwing the money around, that again, it doesn't seem to be Dana White and UFC's money. It seems to be Turkey's money, but they're sort of linked up together. You get the sense that other promoters are starting to get pretty worried about where their place is in the sport if the Saudis are going to continue to overpay to just snap up all the fighters and having this network deal, having this reach while others are struggling to secure their network deals, their streaming deals. I don't quite know where it lands, but I think it's pretty clear that Zuffa Boxing is going to be one of the top players on the scene. They're not going to settle for just sort of being on the fringes with a bunch of B-level fighters. They're obviously looking to shake things up. Now, will they have a PBC style overspend, realize they've overspent and have to pull back and flame out to some degree? Yeah, that's certainly a possibility. Or they could be the dominant force in boxing across the globe for a while, as long as the money spigot is turned on. So, it's definitely, I get the sense that Dana White and Zuffa have the other promoters on the American scene kind of rattled and wondering what their place is going to be.
Yeah, and for so many years, we, as boxing fans, we would always talk like, the what ifs, like, oh, imagine if just some real rich guy just came in and just like paid all the fighters and we got all the fights we wanted. How good would that be? And the last couple of years, we kind of got that.
Right.
Probably just not quite the type of guy and the type of regime that we sort of would have liked, and for the right reasons, So it's very tricky and all that sort of stuff. It's above my pay grade. But
in a perfect world, it's Warren Buffett comes in or something, and or just like somebody who's loaded, but who we also think of as a good person, and that the money's coming from the right place and all that. And so there's sort of very mixed feelings about all this. We've been getting a lot of the fights that we want. A lot of them never would have happened without Turkey's money. I think the Better Biev Bivol series is like the perfect example of they fought each other twice and nobody was going to put up enough money to make either of those fights happen other than Turkey. So, you take the good, but the way that they do business, and I don't know that we want to go down the whole side road of the way that they've corrupted a certain lane of the boxing media. There's a price to pay for all these great fights we're getting.
Yeah, exactly. We do have Survivor to talk about. Otherwise, I might end up going down that road. But we've got more important things to talk about currently.
That's right. Yes.
Just before, and we do have to play another edition of the fight game. I know that some listeners were actually
fired up
for that. I put out some clues as to like who the next guest was going to be because I never announce it, and a couple of people got it right, so they're expecting a fight game.
So there was a game within the game. You had a guessing game to figure out who the guest was going to be, who was then going to play a guessing game on the pod. This is very meta.
Yeah, I know. Basically, I just wanted to figure out if anyone ever listens to the outros that I record, and about 2 people do. So.
Oh, great. All right. Got to start somewhere.
Absolutely. But Eric, just before that, it's actually tomorrow, so short shelf life. We won't get into it super in depth, but we've got a 130-pound unification with WBO champion Emmanuel Navarette and IBF champion Eduardo Sugar Nunez taking place tomorrow. It seems on paper to be a pretty all-action fight. Are you pretty pumped for it?
I am, although it's Nunez is like one of those fighters who I need to like sort of refresh on why I know him. I hate to be that guy, but it's like Navarette I've seen a million times. I know him. Nunez, like, oh yeah, I know I've seen him fight a few times. He's an action guy. He's a puncher. I like him. And then when he steps in the ring, I'll be like, oh yeah, right, okay, that guy. That. It's one of those that because I didn't write any preview on it, I didn't do any research this week, so I haven't thought too deeply about the fight, but clearly. Just even from looking at the odds, Nunez is a slight favorite, which is telling that Navarette, as the more established guy, is a slight underdog. That tells you that but it's very close odds wise. People are definitely talking as if like this is a clash of styles that can't miss. I'm fired up for it. I'm planning to watch. It's not a fight that I've bothered to really take a lot of time though this week to think about.
Yeah, no, it should be fun. But let's get into the fight game.
All right, and get my pen and paper to jot down the clues.
And as always, Eric, if anyone doesn't know what the fight game is, this is a game that you and Kieran invented. So if you wouldn't mind, could you just explain to people the rules? Because I will butcher it badly.
So it is a guessing game where you, the host, will give me 5 clues to help me to point me toward guessing a relatively famous, maybe extremely famous, maybe somewhat famous fight from history. And the clues get progressively more specific. The first clue is usually quite vague, and there are either hundreds of fights could fit it, or nothing will even begin to come to mind. By the time we get to clue 5, you're practically telling me the fighters' names. That's usually the approach to the game. But and I get up to 1 guess for each clue that you give, and I'm a little more prepared this time. I think I'm in the right frame of mind because if I remember, there was a theme of sorts to the first 2 times, and it didn't dawn on me until it was too late. Now, I don't want to assume that the theme is in place here, but at least my mind will be thinking in that direction as you start giving clues.
Or maybe that's what I want you to think. It's right. It's a tough game. It's a tough game.
We are the Dread Pirate Roberts and Vizzini, and you're trying to get me to drink the iocane powder. I don't know if that reference goes over your head or not. Yeah, The Princess Bride.
Okay, that's on my list. I do have to watch that movie.
Yeah. No, so hang up on me now. Go watch The Princess Bride. It's much more important.
Okay, I'll pump it up the list. But yes. All right, clue 1. We ready, Eric?
All right, I am ready. Yes.
Okay, now just let me. A lot of reading on today.
Oh yeah, putting the glasses on. All right, now I know we're getting serious.
I'm getting into wash territory myself. So
these are progressives. So I've got the one prescription up here, and as I look down, it helps me read because everything's getting blurry up close.
I'm heading.
This is what you have to look forward to. Yeah,
can't wait. All right, here we go. A world title eliminator. The fight took place in the mid 2000s. It was the main event on a Fox Sports Net Sunday night fights show, and coinciding with the rise of the internet, may have produced one of the first boxing-related viral moments.
Oh, I have to say, there is a chance I'm going to get this in one guess because a fight somehow occurred to me as you were giving that clue, and I don't know if it's. I saw someone share this clip that I'm thinking of on Twitter like a week or two ago, and so maybe that's why it's in my mind. It does involve an Australian fighter, so that makes it very possible.
All right. Okay.
Is this going to be a very quick round of the fight game? I do feel like it was a Fox fight. I've built it up. Here we go.
I have not prepared a backup either.
That's all right. You don't need a backup. You'll just tell me what the other clues would have been.
Okay.
Now, actually, before I say it, assuming that I've got it right, what we used to do, you may remember, when one of us got it in one, we would bleep out the answer. I would do that like after the fact, so that then the listeners can still play along with the rest of the clues, kind of. So you may want to do that, you may not. But here's my guess for you to potentially bleep out later. Is it
Mr. Black
knocking out
Mr. Black?
Nailed it.
Okay.
Hole in one. Well done.
Yes, still got it.
Well done. And annoyingly, I worked on this about 2 months ago. These clues, and I saw that same Twitter. It was like the boxing history, and I was like, "Oh no, I hope Eric didn't see this."
Yeah, I think it was my old partner Detloff retweeted it with like delighting in how fun it was watching Campbell pay the price for putting his hands down and not taking him seriously. And so yeah, I did see it. So all right, but go ahead and read the rest of your clues for your listeners' sake at least.
Okay, well done. That was it. That was an excellent get.
Thanks.
Very, very good. How long since you've got a one? I reckon that's probably been a while.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many times Kieran and I played it. Let's say he gave me 50 fight games over the course of the years. I think I got it in one like twice, maybe 3 times tops. It didn't happen often. Yeah.
Oh, very good. That is impressive. Okay, well, clue number 2 was most believe this would be a short night for the betting favourite, with the underdog more widely known to the boxing public as a sparring partner to big names, not a world champion in waiting.
Okay.
And then number 3, we had the mid-rounds KO stoppage was fraught with controversy. Clue 4,
okay.
Referee Lou Moret was accused of a fast count, but the widely seen finishing sequence is perhaps the most disastrous example of showboating gone wrong in the history of boxing.
Yeah, I would think even if I hadn't seen it recently, that certainly that one would have triggered the necessary memories. But but just in case it didn't, I'm assuming clue 5 is gonna rhyme with their names or give away their nicknames or something.
Yeah, I really struggle with clue 5, so go easy on me. But the underdog winner, not known for throwing fight-ending bombers, lived up to his nickname, and the loser went out as a warrior, even though he found himself temporarily transported to another galaxy.
That's pretty good. You got the nicknames in there, and the other. That's one of the 2 Robbie Peden memories that jumps out for me. Can you guess what the other one is?
Oh no.
I'm pretty sure it was against Juan. Did he fight Juan Manuel Marquez? Am I remembering that right? I think it was against Marquez. And he started projectile vomiting in his corner, and they stopped the fight.
Yeah, that's right.
Those are the 2 things I remember about Robbie Peden: Nate Campbell putting his hands down and Peden knocking him out, and then Peden projectile vomiting in his corner.
Well, excellent job. Eric. I
Thank
need
you.
to really
Thanks.
step up for round 4. I'll do some serious research. But the silver lining is we have more time to talk about Survivor.
Perfect.
So
Perfect.
let's get
Yes.
into it. It's the monumental global event. Everyone's talking about it. Basically, no one is, but we are.
Is Survivor big in Australia? I know there's also Australian Survivor. Is it a fairly popular show there, or kind of niche cult, small following?
I feel like it's got a pretty good following because I think every single season ever except 2 have been on TV. On like a smaller sort of digital offshoot channel, but it's been televised. I've got a good mate who we love it. We're obsessed with Survivor. I don't really know anyone else that watches it, but I mean, to have 48 or 47 seasons on TV, it's got to have some sort of viewership. So I just don't know anyone else. But yeah, so I think it is quite popular here. And the Australian version is pretty popular too, but that has its own issues. But we're going to focus on the milestone because it's the 50th season. The run-up has been pretty extensive. They announced it a long time ago. I was getting really, really excited. We'll get into the debut episode. It happened just a couple of days ago. It was excellent. I don't want to give away all my thoughts. But how were you leading up to 50, like when the announcement first happened? Because we'd spoken before the last couple of years, Eric, that my interest had waned a little bit in the 40s. I skipped 46, 47, and 48 just because I was like, it's the same thing. It's formulaic. I have questions on the casting. It's got a little bit more PC and that type of thing. I like it a little bit more grittier. So it was waning, but 50 really got me back, and I think it's excellent, which we'll get into. But what were you sort of thinking in the lead up?
I was sort of similar in that I have lost my passion for the show during most of these seasons in the 40s. It's still good. I never was like considering not watching one of these seasons, but it did become formulaic. They changed it post-COVID. They sort of like came up with a new formula starting with season 41. And then they've kept like almost the exact same format without any really interesting twists from 41 through 49. And I think that was to the show's detriment, that some of those seasons were not particularly memorable. And so I actually came into season 50, fired up for 50, but also thinking, I've been watching this show for 25 years. Maybe after 50, maybe I'll finally be done. We'll see, that we'll see how much I end up liking 50 and then how interested I am when 51 rolls around. But I'm with you that the show has been sliding a bit. They haven't done a returning player season since 40. Those can be kind of hit and miss, but it was clearly time for one. So, and I don't know if you heard me on Brian Campbell's podcast when they announced the cast, but I went on with him and we discussed the cast a little bit, and kind of mixed feelings. Like, I don't like the fact that 12 of the 24 are from the seasons in the 40s. That I might have preferred to see about like 8 from the 40s, 8 from like the 20s and 30s, and 8 from the first 20, something like that, a little more balanced. That there's not quite enough old school for me. Although it also makes sense that by now, many of the people from like the first 10, 15 years of the show have kind of aged out of being able to compete on it. But there were still even a few casting decisions that were like, I don't know that I need that person back. There's just a handful of them. A lot of it I approved of. But with all that said, once I saw the cast on the screen and the episode started airing, I quickly fell in love with like the whole cast. I was like, I'm interested in pretty much all of these people. And really, I no longer am criticizing the cast, at least based on one episode.
Yeah. And I'm exactly the same. I thought that, the 40s just dragged so much. I'm just so like, I get that, let's just say season 43, for example. There's been 42 previous seasons. It's the same kind of thing. It's, the brilliance of Survivor is that it always changes and innovates. So we get it, but there is a lot of the same formulaic type of things to it. But I am so over when it's a whole cast of new players, of in the first episode or the second episode, some player having a mental breakdown and going, "Oh, it's so much harder than it looks on TV." Yeah, we know, man. We don't care. Play the game. Like, I'm so over that. But where at least when you get the returning players, they just hit the ground running, and it's so much more of like I never look at Survivor as reality TV. I look at it as like a sport. I don't even think of it in the same category. Like people say, "Do you watch reality TV?" I go, "Nah, no way. I watch Survivor though, but that's like a game. You know? It's more of a game show, like but really like a sport. So I wish they would cast it like a sport, not like a TV show. I think that would be better. But yeah, I was the same. When a lot of the players in the 40s, I literally don't even know still to this day, even after watching the first episode. So I'm hoping that those are the standout ones that, are worthy of sort of hanging with the returning players. But yeah, anyway, I'm rambling. But to your point, they desperately need the returning players. And so far through the first episode, it's pretty evident why.
Yeah, they cast people who are great at delivering those confessionals, are great at delivering a speech. The opening scene of them all, the opening where they did like a 5-minute montage of 49 seasons of Survivor leading up to this was great to get like that highlight package. That was almost like, you turn on HBO boxing and they give you a great montage of like everything that leads up to the Leonard Hagler fight or whatever it might be. I thought that was great, but then the part where they're all standing on the beach and Jeff is asking a few pointed questions, trying to get them to talk about why they're there, what they've been through, what Survivor means to them. And I'm sure they edited out a handful of boring answers that he probably asked like every single person a question. But the ones we got were just great. The emotions, Suri like bringing people to tears right off the bat. And it was just like genuine. Like someone like Colby from Survivor Australian Outback season 2. I didn't think that I necessarily needed to see him again. I'd seen him enough times. He was obviously a great competitor. In my mind, he wasn't like that great of a personality. I think I'd forgotten what a good personality he is, what a good talker he is. And he's just like, he's not the same guy that he was the last time he played. So he's bringing new layers to it. In all my times watching him, this was the first time that it finally dawned on me how much he looks like Kevin Costner. I don't know if that was maybe just because he was always younger. He aged into now. He sort of looks like Kevin Costner. 15, 20 years ago, whatever. So he's almost everyone personality wise is doing it for me right off the bat, to the point that, again, there was a 3-hour premiere, which you're going to think it's going to get boring and drag, that they're overdoing it. They stretched it too long. The last hour was not as good as the first 2 hours. I think, once they post tribal council, when we got the things that followed. And I do have some criticisms of some of the ways that they're structuring the game this season, with the stupid idols named after celebrities and a few of the twists like that. But all in all, just such an incredibly entertaining start to the show, just because of the personalities out there and the various degrees of like how hard they're going to play the game strategy wise from the start, how hard they're going to lean into their reputations or try to play against their reputations, how much they've evolved from the last time that they played and failed. There's just like a lot to it. And again, the last 45 minutes or so, maybe not quite as compelling as everything leading up to the first tribal council of the season. But nevertheless, just a great start, I thought.
Yeah, it definitely tapered off at the end, but that's always the way. The first couple of episodes, you've got to find the ground a little bit. But I thought the first 15 minutes were as good TV as I've seen in, I can't even remember how long. Like you mentioned that montage, they all line up on the beach. Jeff starts revving them up, and there was that moment. I legit got goosebumps when he's given more compliments and he's saying, this is why we chose you and this is why we chose you, and all we ask in return is everything. I was like, oh yes, this is so good. I felt like I would do push-ups or go for a run or something. I didn't, but I thought about it.
No, why would you? No, that's
fired up. But it was incredible. And then so I want to get on to what you was saying there, Eric. Oh, my microphone's just broke.
Uh-oh.
Anyway, I can hold it.
All right.
Literally just snapped. I'm having a good day. The power went out. I'm running on a generator. But anyway,
Right.
we're talking.
I was going to say, at least you've still got power. I say, knocking wood that this doesn't suddenly crap out in the middle of the conversation.
Yeah, like a fire just starts or something. But you have criticisms of the game. You were saying that the game structure. What are you apprehensive about?
So there was that stupid like Billie Eilish. The idea behind the idol, the boomerang idol, that you can. What is it? You pick someone on another tribe to give it to, and if they get voted out without using it, it boomerangs back to you. That's a cool idea. It's a little something different. I'm fine with that. But like naming it after Billie Eilish is just for the real fans of the show. I understand that they maybe want to attract new fans, and that by putting her name on it, she'll post something on social media about it, and that's probably what they're going for. But that kind of stuff doesn't do it for me. So I feel like there was another sort of game related twist that they worked in. Just the theme of the in the hands of the fans is so corny, and they keep saying it over and over, and the fan voting doesn't impact anything. Like, the fans are gonna vote to have no idols. Obviously they're gonna vote to have idols in the game, and that was
a good switcheroo by Jeff, though, with the
yes, the way that he delivered it with the making them think they were getting rice when they weren't. That was good. I mean, Probst is amazing. For him to have been doing this as long as he has and still be this passionate about it. He's great. He's the Jim Lampley of Survivor. But the
right call.
But the in the hands of the fans theme, I wish they would downplay that and just focus on the players rather than the twists in the game. But because the players are pretty much all doing it for me at this point. I'm sure by the time it's over, there'll be one or two that I'll point at and say, oh, they didn't really do much, or they annoyed me, or whatever. But for now, I'm in.
See, I'm actually liking the in the hands of the fans thing. And maybe it's just sort of like a leftover ease of frustration, as we were talking about, from like the formulaic, mundane nature of the 40s.
Right.
So maybe as time goes on, it'll become a little bit corny for me, as you were saying. But at the moment, I'm like, thank God they're like doing something different. They're innovating. It feels fresh again. This is fun. That's like what it used to be like. But yeah, you're right. Do we need celebrities? Yeah, that's true. Billie Eilish, like, could we get someone better? But I don't know. I guess they're going for a different demographic. It's not us anymore. So.
Right, and I forget if one of the things that the fans were able to vote for is the Final Four fire making. But like, I feel like that was one of the things. So I'll be curious to see if that's there, because that's like classic example of the thing through the 40s. That when they introduced it in the mid-30s, I think it was maybe season 35, 36 or so, that they first did that, and it was a big twist, and nobody knew about it, and it made the difference in that guy Ben being able to win the game. That then once it became expected that you get to Final Four and there's going to be fire making, at a certain point, I was waiting in the 40s for them to suddenly pull the rug out on everyone. And no, they just kept doing it every single time. Final Four fire making every season. So that would be a case of like, that is played out. I'd love for them to not do that in 50. We'll see, I guess, I can't remember if that was one of the things that was up for a vote. But even just to, have a big twist where they go back to a final two instead of the final three. Or maybe this time they shake it up and we have our first ever Final Four with like, an 8-person jury voting on 4, I don't know what it may be, but I'd like to see them shake it up more. I know we're never going to go back to the 39 days on the island, that they reduced it to 26 post-COVID and have stayed there. And this one is going to be 26, which means also we're going to have a lot of eliminations in rapid fire. There's 24 players. Yeah. They're out there for 26 days or whatever it is. So, and we're 3 days in on island, or I guess 4 days in on island time by the time Kyle was taken out, and we still have, we've only gotten rid of 2 players. So I think there's going to be a lot of double eliminations, a lot of competitions where both the second and third place tribe have to go to tribal council. I assume there'll be a lot of that stuff coming in. So yeah, hopefully the twists will keep it, keep it engaging. But I'm just into the people, and I think I told you when we were trading messages beforehand that I have a weird feeling that if I had to pick a winner right now, and the opening episode did nothing to steer me away from this, kind of feeling Mike White. That there's just it's almost he's almost an unnatural feature to have in the game because his outside the game presence could impact the way people approach him. But I really think that there is going to be this underlying thing of all these other players in the cast who want to be friends with the guy behind the White Lotus, want to get cast in a cameo on the White Lotus, don't want to be the one who voted him out. If he gets to the end, they don't want to vote against him, as was the case last time he got to the end and didn't get the votes. And he's in great shape. He's got a six pack from out of nowhere. He's also just like a charming personality. Everyone likes him. Yeah. Either they're going to wake up soon to, this guy's a huge threat, we have to get rid of him soon, or he could really. If I have to make a winner pick, it's Mike White. What do you have? Someone who's jumping out at you?
I do, but I just wanted to say beforehand because I forgot. And we'll finish up on the winner. I said I'd only keep you an hour, Eric. I apologize. I'm pushing right up on that time, but
no, I'm good. I'm in no rush. All good.
No worries. So what else can break? So something else will happen, but but you mentioned Kyle ruptured his Achilles tendon and got medevaced out sort of at the end of the episode. I swear to God, I would have loved if this happened, but I genuinely thought something like in the moment might happen. I thought, how amazing would it be? The boat goes out, Kyle gets taken away, another boat comes in. Who steps off?
The backup player?
Russell Hantz.
That would be great TV. I don't think Survivor wants to be in the Russell Hantz business ever again, though.
It would be fantastic, though.
Yeah.
But as far as a winner, I mentioned to you when we were messaging back and forth because Sari just did the Australia versus the World series. I thought she was really match fit. She placed pretty highly in that. I thought she'd be able to hit the ground running socially. You know, the dust is knocked off, the cobwebs are gone, she's ready to fire, but she seemed to be targeted pretty quickly and rightfully so. So we'll see how she goes there. I still think she'll go pretty deep for those reasons, but I forgot all about Rick Devens.
Right.
I love Devens. I reckon Devens is going to go well. He's already looking for the idols. He's up to his old tricks.
He is, and he's fun, and he's got a good early three-person alliance with him and Christian and Emily that seems like they're actually, if they're able to stay if none of them has to get voted out and they stay on the same tribe, that's like an alliance that you could see going real deep into the game. The one thing with him is I'm such a nerd for the Survivor stuff. I listen to a lot of preseason podcasts. Rob Sesternino, who was on the 6th season, I guess, back in the day. Season 6, the Amazon, and then came back for All Stars and then started his own podcast network a few years later. I listened to all his podcasts, and they had interviews from Fiji right before the game started with everyone. And they were getting their impressions of the other players. Do you think this person is a friend or a foe? And they went all down the line. And a lot of people were down on Rick Devens. Like, I don't trust that guy. I don't like the way he was smiling at me in the pregame when we're not allowed to talk to each other, but people make eyes and whatever. I don't know. He seems like a phony. I'm not. So there was just a lot of negativity toward Rick Devens. So that doesn't mean your pick is wrong, but it's just something that, because I know that from the interviews, I wouldn't have picked him to win. It seems maybe people are not big fans, but he can also, that was also pregame. As the game gets going, he could win everyone over.
Yeah. And what's your stance on the Riz God?
So you did watch season 49, it sounds like. You came back and watched the last season, so you're familiar with his exploits?
So, yeah, when they announced before 49 that 2 players from 49 were going to be on 50, I was like, okay, well, I have to watch 49 now. So, yeah, I was all over Savannah and the Riz God.
Yeah, I found myself kind of rooting against him as 49 went along, but that was also sort of the way that I think they positioned it on the show, that he and Savannah were kind of running the game, and so you always gravitate towards the underdogs. Once you see who's in charge, you find yourself rooting for the people who aren't in charge, so that was part of it. But I didn't hate him, but I didn't love him either. But I thought he had a really interesting start here. That the dynamic between him and Colby was really well presented. That right off the bat, he's annoying the hell out of Colby can't stand this kid. And then by the next day, he was like, you know what? He's entertaining. He's a good kid. And then they have a heart to heart. And Rizgod tells Colby, reminds him of his dad, and they're crying and hugging. And so it was fun to see that emotional arc right out of the gate. I don't think there's much chance that either he or Savannah could win. I think that the chance of someone doing a back-to-back season, especially Savannah having just one, they're going to really be threatened by her. Yeah, I don't think he can win, but it seems like he's going to make for solid TV while also occasionally annoying us.
Yeah, I kind of don't mind the Rizgod because, like, if he was actually good at challenges and like really good at anything, he would annoy me so badly. But he's actually really not that good at anything. Like, he's just super charismatic and loves to grandstand at tribals. Right. And he's entertaining, but he's not like a good operator,
Right, but no, I think he's not good in the challenges, but he is good at sort of the strategic thinking behind voting and alliances and all that.
That's true.
I think that came to the fore in the last season, that he knew how to play the game. Although there was also sort of an undercurrent of he was getting deep, running a good alliance, but I think everyone in that cast was saying if he'd gotten to the end, he wasn't going to win. Nobody was viewing his game as a winning game. So
yeah, that's true. No, that's a good point. So you're sticking with Mike White as the official pick from the debut episode?
Yeah, I think so. With 22 players left in the game, if I've got to pick someone right now, understanding that on paper I shouldn't have better than a 5% chance really of being right. Mike White is my pick for now. And so you're going to stick with Devins despite the information I just gave you?
Yeah, I'll stick with Devins. With Devins. Yeah, I reckon they. A lot of what gets leaked beforehand is more on purpose than we realize as well. So
that could be right. That could be that a lot of people. Yeah, that a lot of people are planning to play with him and not saying that to the interviewer or whatever to throw him off. It's possible.
Yeah, for sure. But no, it's going to be interesting. It was an excellent debut. I'm super pumped for it. It's going to be so much fun. So we'll see how it goes. But Eric, just before we do go, mate, as mentioned at the start, you had the Raskies last year, which was fantastic. Electric Rascaloo, absolutely brilliant. You've been hit the ground running. You've done some excellent articles this year. Caught up with Joe Goosen in Fight Week for the Ryan Garcia fight. What have you got coming up on boxing scene, mate? And also, is there potentially a return to podcasting coming? I'm sort of maybe throwing that out there, more hopeful than anything. But what have you got? What can we come to expect from your boxing coverage for the rest of 2026, mate?
There is nothing in the offing at the moment, podcast-wise. Doesn't mean something won't materialize, but right now nothing is being discussed. But I've gotten back into the writing after initially being sort of reluctant because it is harder work than podcasting. I've found that I'm enjoying writing 2 columns a week again. So I do have. I usually kind of figure out my columns on the fly. I don't usually come into the week, knowing what I'm going to write about next week necessarily. I do know what one of my 2 columns next week will be. I'll sort of tease it that it is spinning off something Frank Warren said in an interview this week about the depth of his heavyweight stable, which is quite good. Queensberry has a ridiculous heavyweight stable right now. So I'm working on something that spins off of that. And then the one other thing that I know that I have coming up that I'll tease is on March 16th will be 30 years since Christy Martin's fight with Deidre Gogarty that basically launched women's boxing, that got Christy Martin on the cover of Sports Illustrated. I'm not doing an article on that fight or on Christy Martin, but I'm doing something else that spins from that anniversary to something else having to do with a women's boxer. Woman boxer, female boxer. I'm not able to put words together. As you know, I'm washed and it's 7 p.m. where I am, so that's clearly pushing up against my bedtime, and so the words aren't coming together quite as well at the moment.
No worries. Well, that's excellent. Thanks for teasing, and we hope you have a very busy year, Eric. You've hit the ground running amazingly well, mate. And as always, I will have the links to Eric's social media and also his author page on Boxing Scene in the description of this episode, so anyone listening or watching can click away and follow along directly with Eric's work throughout the year, which for me, in my opinion, is a must follow. So, Eric, thank you again for coming on and having a chat, mate. It was awesome to chat Survivor, but also always awesome to pick your brain on boxing, mate. I always learn a ton. And unbelievably impressive performance on the fight game. I'm really disappointed in myself, but it was just it was a great guess by you, but I've got to do better for next time. I'll work.
No, it's no bearing on you. Sometimes you just run into an unstoppable force, and there's nothing you can do about it. And then today I was Ryan Garcia, you were Mario Barrios. That's the way it goes sometimes.
I got Barrios.
Okay. But no, it was. I appreciate you asking me to come on. It's always good to talk to you, Zach. And so this was fun.
Excellent, Eric. Well, thank you very much, mate. Just hang on the line. Just takes a second to upload. But thank you again, mate. All right, guys. And there we had it. That was my chat with Eric Raskin. How much fun was that? This episode may be slightly polarizing as we didn't really talk too much about the current fights. I think it was probably like a pod of two halves, I reckon. Spoke about the fights first up, and then obviously had to jump into the fight game. Eric's trivia-based game that he made up with his mate Kieran Mulvaney is so much fun to play. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that too. And also we had to break down Survivor. That was an absolute ton of fun. But guys, we front-loaded the boxing, so hopefully you guys enjoyed that. And maybe there's some Survivor fans out there as well, and some trivia fans. So we'll see how we go. But guys, as always, and as I mentioned in the chat, I have included all the links to follow along with Eric's excellent coverage of boxing on many platforms, however you want. So, did that even make any sense? Not really. Let me try that. Try that again. I've included the links to Eric's social media where he posts all of his stories and his features and everything he's working on in boxing. And I've also included Eric's author page on the Boxing Scene website in the description of this episode. So you can click on that link and go straight to every article that Eric's written. And as he just teased for us, he's already got another couple of columns in the makings. And of course, we've got to wait for later on in the year when the Raskies, the third edition of the Raskies comes back. I can't wait to read and see what pun-based theme for the title Eric has come up with, because the Raskies 2 Electric Rascaloo was absolutely hilarious. I fully commend obscure comedy, and that was brilliant. So, and also, I say this all the time, guys, but it is so true, and especially in this case, if you want to get on and support Eric's great work within boxing, you will truly be supporting one of the good guys. Eric is a thorough gentleman through and through. I can't overstate it. He could not be more easy to deal with, more considerate, more thoughtful, more polite, all those type of things. Just a great guy, a really, really good guy. So you will be doing him a favor, and you were doing me a favor by doing him a favor. So, guys, awesome episode. Now, what a goddamn disaster this was. So, just to put some context forward, I told you guys in the last outro, the episode before, the episode with Anson Wainwright, shout out to Anson, another top bloke and a great guy. The power went out in my suburb, so we had to postpone from our original recording day to 24 hours later, which was a bit of an annoyance, but, as I mentioned last time, to Anson's credit, he was happy just to roll over to the next day. How's this? 2 weeks later, 2 hours before the record time, the power to the suburb goes out again. That's twice, both times when I'm trying to record pods. What the hell? So this time I had enough time up my sleeve, luckily. My old man's got a generator. I actually don't own a generator, so he's only about 15, 20 minutes away. I shot over to his house, got his generator, came back, filled it up, ran the leads out, plugged the computer in, plugged the internet in, got everything going just in time. So I made it to Eric and I's recording time, the space that Eric had put away specifically for me. I made it by about 10 minutes. So what are the odds, man? I've got to get myself a generator. But not only that, then during the episode, people who watch the video, my microphone broke. It just snapped off. Just randomly. So, oh man, what the hell is going on? Anyway, they reckon things happen in 3, so I'll probably bloody have some other epic disaster later. We'll see what happens. But yeah, not a bloody good run on the TUSC for me at the moment. But anyway, guys, we got the chat done. We got the pod recorded. It was a ton of fun. So it made all the hassle very much worth it. So guys, coming up in a matter of days, I've actually been fortunate enough to be invited back onto Luke Cattell's podcast, Lukey Boxing. He wants me to do a February review with him, and there's a number of categories, and we're going to go through and list all our winners of said categories as a bit of a review for the month, which I've never really done anything like that before, so I've had to do a bit of research. I can definitely tell you right now, I won't be as extensively researched as Lukey. He is on a complete other level when it comes to that, but I will do my best to keep up with him. So if you guys want to get on board and listen, and I think that'll be a live stream on YouTube as well. The video should be available after the fact also on the Lukey Boxing YouTube channel. You can catch that there. So guys, if you want to get in contact with me, you can email the pod at tuscpod@gmail.com. That's tuspod@gmail.com. If you want to throw a tweet at me, you can do that at delivery_man2. We also got the Insta page out there, guys. Also got the YouTube channel. All the links are in the description of this episode. So guys, I haven't got an actual date or a guest locked in for the next episode, but we'll stick with the momentum. I'm thinking we'll be back out in a week or two. What have we got? There's something coming up. Oh, of course, Jai Opetaia. Jai Opetaia's world title defense, Brandon Glanton, his Zuffa debut coming up on the 9th of March. So I reckon we will most likely get something out after that. A couple of days after that, I'll work on it. So that'll be the rough time frame for the next episode, guys. So until then, guys, enjoy the fights. Enjoy Survivor. Let me know if there's any Survivor fans out there. But first and foremost, enjoy the fights, guys, and I'll chat to you later.
Road less travel may add up the change. Living like there's no tomorrow, then tomorrow came. Going all out. I was living like there's no tomorrow, then tomorrow came. I got the wake up call, laughing through the window frame.